So you're thinking about moving right here to Houston, Texas, and I'm sure you have your reasons why. There are a ton of reasons we're seeing clients relocate to the Houston area. It started a couple years ago with COVID, and people really just starting to realize that they could work remotely. They wanted more freedoms. They didn't want to be told what to do. They wanted better cost of living or housing affordability. They wanted a little bit more space. So those are all the reasons people are moving here. But I want to be fair. Before you do pull the trigger and you reach out to us and you decide to move to Houston, there are some things that you need to know. And I want to be unbiased. And so in today's video, we're going to be walking through the top reasons you shouldn't move to Houston, Texas. Now, these aren't going to apply to everybody, but I do think it's important before you make such a big decision that you know about these things. So let's get after it right now. So let's dive straight in. Reason number one that you shouldn't move to Texas. If you are used to a ton of healthy eating options on every food corner and you're right in the middle of the hustle and bustle, unless you're living really close to downtown Houston, you might not find that. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't healthy food options with grocery stores, because there are, but if you're looking for convenient, healthy options in small towns around Houston, it's gonna be very difficult. Texas is known for its down-home Southern cooking. It's got good food, but we also have a ton of fast food here. And so if you wanna eat healthy, it's gonna be a little bit more of a challenge. I've traveled through California, and I just found that there was a little bit more healthy options available at your fingertips if you're looking for something healthy and convenient. So I don't want to scare you away entirely. We've got Whole Foods, we've got Trader Joe's, we've got some of the better grocery stores, we have H-E-B, and you're gonna find those pretty much in all of the Houston suburbs. But if you're looking for that convenient, healthy eating, you might struggle to find it unless you're closer in towards downtown or you're in the top 2 or 3 more robust Houston suburbs. Okay, number 2 on my list, and this is one that a lot of people don't consider, but everything in Texas is far. It's very spread out. So often clients are looking at homes online and they're wanting to compare areas, and then they fly in for a preliminary trip and they are blown away by how much ground they actually have to cover. You know, one suburb might be 45 minutes away from another, and there's like 30 suburbs. So Houston's a massive area. Texas is even larger. It can take 13 hours to drive across the state of Texas from top to bottom, and 13 hours to drive across the state side to side. And so that's going to leave you with a lot of commuting. It's gonna mean that because Texas has room, it's one of those things that people are moving here for more space. You're gonna get that here. But the trade-off to that is that you're gonna need a car. So if you're used to having your own or having access to great public transportation, my experience here is that you don't use it. You get your own car, you pay for car insurance, you buy a car, and you use it. Because at the end of the day, you want to be able to access your job, and you might not be able to do that using public transportation here. So yeah, that's number 2, is everything is really spread out. It's very far, but the pro to that is that you're gonna get a little bit more space. Now, number 3 kind of ties into that. With everything being so spread out, there are parts of Texas that can be very boring. The landscape of Texas can be boring. Now, that's not gonna be the case everywhere, but I think any place that you live for a while, you just kind of get desensitized to how pretty it is. We get a lot of clients that come from out of state that are blown away by how pretty the trees are here in the Houston area. But if you lived here your whole life and you go to California or you go to Colorado, it can be a little bit boring. And so while I do appreciate the trees and the nature component of the Houston area, the lakes as well, I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't hold a candle to the California coast. It just doesn't. And so that's one of the things that I would say is something you need to be aware of. Come here, see for yourself. Like I said, a lot of clients fall in love with it, but for me, it's just not quite as pretty as I would draw it up. Now that being said, because Texas is so big, you do have a ton of different landscapes. You've got the coastal plains, you've got the hill country out towards Austin, and then if you go even further west, you've got really, really cool mountainous desert regions as well that are worth, planning a family vacation to. So, number 4 on my list is going to be high property taxes. We get this question a lot. People have done their research, they want to move here, and then they get sticker shock when they see the property taxes. And it is true, the property taxes here in Texas are higher than nearly every other state. And whenever we say higher, I would say a low property tax that you're going to find a little further outside of the cities is somewhere in that 1.7% range. And you're going to see them get as high as 3.7%. So at the end of the day, that is very high, and it's not for everyone. Now, there are a couple things to consider when you're thinking about this. One, it's offset by our lower cost of living here. Two, there's no state income tax here as well. And so ultimately, how I feel about the property taxes here is I'm willing to pay them because it gives funding to the local school systems, which are really, really great here in the Houston area and really most of Texas. Texas has a great education system, and that has to be paid for somehow. And here in the state of Texas, that is paid for by property taxes. So they are kind of high. There are a couple caveats to that. If you're living out on land, you can get some exemptions for agricultural exemptions or wildlife exemptions. And if you're living in a neighborhood, you can file a homestead exemption, which will reduce your tax bill just a little bit. And if you're a veteran and you're 100% disabled, you pay zero property taxes in the state of Texas. Let me say that again, zero property taxes. So if you're a 100% disabled veteran, give us a call. You will be pleasantly surprised by what you can afford here in Texas when you're not paying those property taxes. Okay, number 5 on my list is going to be natural disasters. And so we do get hurricanes here. We do get flooding as well. Now, tornadoes we get asked about a lot. I would say tornadoes at the end of the day actually aren't a serious issue for us here. I know if you look up statistics, it says that there are a lot, but at least living here in the Houston area, we don't get near as many tornadoes as Dallas does, as far up north, more Tornado Alley up as you go into Oklahoma and Kansas. And so anyways, tornadoes aren't something I fear. Hurricanes actually also aren't something that I fear. I'm just prepared for them. So typically here in the Houston area, when we get hit by a hurricane, it's not a ton of wind damage. It can be, but usually it's the rain and the flooding. And so you definitely want to be aware when you're moving here of what areas you're buying in. And we have a really clear idea of what areas are going to flood. And so flooding can be issues. You may have heard of Hurricane Harvey. That's a really bad hurricane that caused some catastrophic flooding here in the Houston area back in 2018. That being said, because we have that, now we know what areas are prone to flooding the worst, and so we can avoid those areas. Okay, number 6 kind of goes back to what we were talking about Texas being so big. One of the downsides to Texas being as big as it is that if you want to travel outside of the state, you need to fly, unless you're ready for a 12-hour road trip. So even though you're in a great position to travel for business, if you're needing access to a really good international airport and want to be in between both coasts, that's a great reason to live here in the Houston area. But it is a con that it's, a 3.5-hour flight or a 20-something hour drive to California, and the same thing out to Florida. Florida's a little bit closer of a drive here from the Houston area, but that being said, it takes a while to travel, and so if you really want to explore, you're gonna have to save up that money and buy those plane tickets or get really cozy on a very, very, very long road trip. Okay, number 7 on our list is gonna be power grid failure. Now, we don't necessarily have rolling blackouts like I've heard about in California, but the energy grid here in Texas is its own grid, and therefore it is susceptible to going down. And now it isn't something that I would say was a big issue throughout living here growing up, but a couple of years ago we did have a really bad freeze, and I think it kind of opened up people's eyes to the fact that the Texas power grid is susceptible. And so if you happen to live in certain parts of Houston, it's just more likely for your power to go out if there is a bad freeze. Now, that being said, we typically don't get very bad freezes, and so the infrastructure here isn't built for these freezes. So if it does freeze, there's a chance the power grid goes out. But that kind of leads me to my next point, which is number 8, reasons that you shouldn't move here. And that's gonna be weather, okay? It doesn't freeze here very often, but when it does, it gets very, very, very cold. And so you're gonna have pipes burst in houses, your sprinklers are gonna break if you don't properly winterize them. And these are things that Texans seem to fail at year and year again. And so if you are moving here, prepare for the heat, okay? I know everyone talks about Texas being hot, but a lot of people show up here and they're like, well, look, I've been to Arizona, or we have heat in California, like we know what heat is. Maybe you do, but heat plus humidity equals way worse. And so we have a ton of humidity here, being right here on the coast. You're going to deal with a lot of sweat, and so just get used to it. I highly recommend, if you're moving to Texas, go ahead and invest that extra money. Make sure that your vehicle has remote start so you can get your air conditioner running 5 to 10 minutes before you actually go out to the vehicle. I have air conditioned seats in my truck so that I'm not sweating in between showing houses, and it helps. It makes a big difference. So season-wise, we actually do get all 4 seasons here in Texas. We've got another video of ours on the weather I definitely recommend you checking out. We go into it a little bit deeper. But you do get 4 seasons here. So the pro to the weather here is gonna be, you get to play golf year round, okay? There are some days in the middle of January after a cold front where it gets warmed up to 72 degrees and sunny, and it's perfect weather to go outside and do fun things. Now, summer here typically picks up around May, and it really doesn't let up until mid-October. And so you're really gonna have about a 5-month summer. You do get all 4 seasons though. Spring is very nice. You get 2 to 3 months of really great weather, and then fall is really nice here as well. Hey, real quick, if this is your first time to our channel and you're wanting to know everything there is to know about Houston so that you can move here, or maybe so that you shouldn't move here, the best way to do that is subscribe, tap that bell for notifications, and we'll keep you up to date on everything going on right here in Houston. My name is Kyler Ferris. I'm the broker owner of Ferris Realty. And we get calls, texts, and emails every single day from people just like you looking to move to Houston. So if that's you, don't be shy. Leave some comments down below, ask us some questions, and then reach out. Give us that call, shoot us that text, send us that quick email. We would love to help you make a smooth move right here to Houston, Texas. Okay, and last but not least, the final reason you maybe shouldn't move to Texas is gonna be if you're scared of bugs. There are bugs everywhere here in Texas. Now, that being said, they don't always affect you. And so Texas is civilized just like wherever it is that you live. We've got active pest control. So if you're worried about spiders, you can take care of that. But you've got spiders, you've got grasshoppers, and the worst of them all is you're gonna have mosquitoes. So here in the summer, depending on how wet it gets, we had a really dry summer last summer and the mosquitoes weren't terrible, but if you're in lower lying wet areas, the mosquitoes get really bad here for about 4 months. It's miserable to go outside. You need to make sure that you've got your off or your DEET to spray on, and really you're just gonna try to avoid being in those areas with mosquitoes as much as possible. So there's sometimes if you're out at the kids' sports games, you just can't avoid it. But they're not out all day, I will say that. Mosquitoes really come out at night, like kind of that hour as the sun's going down. So, you know, just avoid hanging out on the back patio, get you some citronella candles if you have to be out there. But the bugs here can be bad. You've got ticks as well if you're going out hunting in the woods, something to be careful of. So it is something you can keep under control. And then we do have cockroaches as well. So if you're not used to cockroaches, they do exist here, and like I said, once again, get pest control. So I hope all of these things are insightful for you as you are looking to move here. If you've got any more specific questions about these things or any other reasons you're considering maybe not moving to Houston, feel free to start a conversation with us. Throw your questions down in the comments below. We would love to hear from you. We always reply back to our comments. And then if you are looking to move to the Houston area, like we always say, don't be shy. Just pick up the phone, give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email. That way we can really start helping you make that smooth move right here to Houston, Texas. Thank you guys so much for watching, and go check out some of our other videos.